but not god or goddess, neither young nor old, not enlightened. Beyond the stars I dwell, beyond your grasp. Will you join me where we can laugh and play? Hello again, my friend. So, what really happened? There are moments in life where we really wake up. This moment was just perfect for me. It fit completely with who I am, who I always was, and it changed me for life. It wasn't a spiritual guru or some emotional catharsis. Everything became clear. I was immediately released. I became whole. No slow process, no teacher. It was simply the unspoken truth. I was full. I was free. It was spring, April 1968. The background. I was going with him for about 4 years. By the time it ended, I had lost my mind. I no longer had my own thoughts. When someone would bring up a topic, I knew his opinions better than my own. The answers arising in my mind, the inner voice was his. I returned to the USA and found out I couldn't be closer than 2 feet for anybody, or I would feel consumed. I developed worried lines between my eyebrows, right over here, they're still there. My mother had been opposed to the relationship, so going home was not a choice. I returned to the States with no money, no profession. I was 25 and felt like I had missed out on life. My friends were either married or had gone back to school and become somebody. I felt, well, just awful. Never in my life since have I felt like such a failure, like life had passed me by. It was too late for me. I was 25 and I was nowhere. At that time, the US was engaged in the war in Vietnam. So I went to a demonstration and I saw 9 women marching along in single file, wearing Vietnamese outfits. And they were doing that sound like the Algerian women used to do. I was intrigued, so I went up to them and said, "Who are you?" "We're Women's Liberation," one answered, and went on to explain that they met at Judy Weston's house on Thursday nights. "I'm coming," I said with eager anticipation. 1968, the very beginning of the women's movement. There, before Ms. or Gloria Steinem, or before it was announced anywhere, I was committed before I even attended a meeting. We sat around in a circle, and each woman would speak their perception, their experience of what it was to be a woman in their life. For a month or so, we went from apartment to apartment. I was fascinated. Some women came and went, but I was there every time. Then one meeting, something very special happened. We were at Robin Morgan's apartment, a large place in the East Village looking out at 2nd Avenue. A woman came into the group, Kathy Matnick. She sat there listening to all of us go around the room telling our particular stories. She was a pretty girl, short haircut, kind of clean cut, with a delicious smile and bright eyes. Then she spoke. "You women have it wrong," she said. "You think each one of you is the exception to the rule." She proceeded to point out how each one was saying, "Well, I don't have it so bad because I'm with a married woman, so I've escaped that problem." Or, "My boyfriend is Black, so he understands my oppression." Or, "I have a bisexual boyfriend, so we get along fine." Or, "With me, I had no relationship. See, wasn't I free?" She said, "You think you're emancipated because you've taken some other woman's man? You think you're not oppressed because you're with a Black man? You're both oppressed." She looked at me. "You think you're free because you don't have any love in your life? Is that what you want? Or you're with a bisexual? Is that really what you want?" It was very subtle. I think what had been happening from meeting to meeting up to that point was everyone was kind of saying, like bragging, like, it doesn't relate to me because I'm the exception to the rule. Or there are women that are oppressed, but I can rise above it, or I escaped it. I'm here to teach others what a liberated woman looks like. No, Kathy pointed out, it's a trap and you can't get out of it. It was brilliant. She was clear, and she invited us to join a larger group of women who were meeting at the SCEF office, Southern Christian Education Fund, on Thursday nights. Then I learned that that group I was in had split up from the main group because they thought they were getting too big. In the SCEF office had 30 women sitting in a circle. Being there brought immediate liberation. That's where it happened. That's when we were no longer on the earth. I was no longer part of the society, no longer defined by anything. We were speaking words that had never been spoken before. One mind began to grow in that room. I would sit there, and the first thing I would do would be slip my hand on my back and unsnap my bra. And then I would slide it through the armhole. And in 4 seconds, I was free. That tight band around my chest, stopping the natural breathing, was off. Phew. Our minds exploded. Everyone was brilliant. One woman's words would become the thoughts of the next woman. Each woman had a particular part of the puzzle, a particular angle from how she experienced it, because we all don't experience it exactly the same way, but it's there if you look at your feelings of what's going on. We could learn from the experience of each of us. No comparison, no better than you, no smarter than you, no prettier than you, no egos, just a mad desire for the truth. The first time you see something that's never been said before is an explosion. It reveals the lies you've been taught to believe. It erases all other characters. Your mind is a jumble with new thoughts. The personal is the political, was the theory. That's where the information is. That's where the data is. That's where we could discover what was really going on. For me, there was no anger, just an illumination of the truth. Wow, even our breasts are not our own, I thought. We dress them up, we squeeze them, we enlarge them, we shrink them. Poor breasts. They're really just made for baby's milk, after all. You can't see who you are from inside the box. You have to get out of that box to perceive yourself. And that ain't easy to do, but it happened there. Once you're put in a category, you're limited, even when it sounds good. The prettiest girl in the class, a goddess, the smartest, the fastest. Trapped you are, and you're supposed to enjoy it. You're supposed to enjoy that praise, but jail it is. Wonder why you feel kind of queasy when you're flattered? Buttered up to be eaten like toast. I say, buy the damn out of jail card. Get your monopoly money and run, and don't take any bribes. I was free. I left the planet, the society. Like Einstein being able to see the curvature of the universe, he had to mentally remove himself, step out of it so he could see how it worked. The invisible, unspoken expectations put on us. Now, 40 years later, it all seems a bit obvious, but I can still see confusion here on Maui. Women talk about being goddesses. What about gods? We're still separated into groups, and separation means comparison. I have this, you have that. Maui on a day-to-day level seems very feminine, yet when we go to conferences or TED.com or writing groups, writing conferences, I should say, writing groups, the women will talk, but writing conferences, it's still mostly men that speak. I listen to the kids today, and a female who has sex is still condemned while a male is congratulated. Many women who started in the women's movement came out of the civil rights area or Vietnam. Protests, they were girlfriends or typists, sort of secretaries, cook and bottle washers for the movement. They began to see that something was up. I, of course, had been a girlfriend. I had been trained to look politically and socially at what had been going on. And now that information came into use. But otherwise, we weren't going top down, we were going bottom up. We would say, look at your experience, see what it's telling you. Your feelings have information embedded in them. Liberation can happen in a moment. That's when it does. It's not a gradual thing, but it's very hard to be liberated if you're alone. If what you know is to be true is shared by another, the world changes in that moment. Why do we need it? Well, maybe we don't need it. But as the Buddhists say, the Sangha, the community, it helps. It's something like bolding a font. Someone looking at you when their eyes are saying, yes, it's true. It's really true. Why is that necessary? Well, maybe it's not necessary, but I'll tell you why. Because the rest of the society is telling you the opposite. The teachers, the experts, the historians, the schools, the books, your mother, your father, your boyfriend. And so we begin to compromise a little at a time. Who wants to be arguing all day long? But how do you know it's true? You might ask. Because it's obvious. That's why. You don't have to be convinced. You don't have to be cajoled. If you have to be convinced, if you have to be pushed, then that ain't it. It must be clear as the sunlight shining in the morning sky. Should make you laugh, should make you feel joyous, should give you energy, make you want to skip down the street like a kid. Doesn't mean the whole world will change. The rest of the world may stay the same. It's you that has changed. Now, the truth is the key to your liberation. But you still have to open that door, and that ain't easy. It's a door that's been shut for a millennium or two, maybe 10,000 years. It's a heavy door, creaking and obstinate. It has a spring that can hit you in the face if you let it go, swing right back of you, making you feel like you're the fool. They might say, so what do you want? Who's keeping you from being free? Ain't no one with a gun at your throat, you hear them say. But those inner knots that we've accumulated over the years, unless others are there to urge you on, it's hard to release. And that's why we need support, because you're not just fighting the outside world, it's the inner world you're fighting too. Like an athlete, we need a cheering squad. That's maybe why it takes at least 12 people to make a revolution, but that's enough. And that's when a revolution can happen so quickly, like in South America. It can switch from a dictatorship to a free society because they know, the people know that they're being oppressed. Because when everyone knows it's a lie, just a few telling the truth can make a difference. Like when the truth is told, when the boy says the emperor has no clothes, we get it. But it takes someone to say it. Because if it's not said, if you don't get to hear it, you may feel confused and depressed, think it's your own damn fault. What's wrong with me? How come everybody else can do it? So it might appear to you. What are some truths, for example, that we don't want to know? Like no one should own the earth. No one has a right to private property. No one has a right to say you cannot eat from this tree, that it's their tree, that you have to pay them to eat from it, that everyone should share. This earth, it's our birthright. How can we be homeless? I could understand if somebody from Mars arrived here and we said, sorry, no home for you here, go back to your planet. But excuse me, we were born on the earth. These trees, this land is our home, but we get bribed. This one gets to be smart. That one gets to have money. That one gets to be charming. She can sing well, or he, yes, men too, gets to be tough and demanding. That enticement makes you think you're better than others, but it's a bribe you shouldn't take, I tell you, because the devil gets its shadow. Pretty but superficial, smart but lonely, famous but empty. Or maybe you do have it all. Maybe you are rich and smart and deep, but that's not it either. Because whatever we get, we always want more because none of it is satisfying. Because real joy comes from loving others, from disappearing, from working with others, from creating something useful on this planet. I did an experiment one day. I was studying an ancient Buddhist secret text. It said every time you stand up, you sit down, think of the other instead of yourself. I was working then, and I spent the whole day doing that practice. It felt so free. I realized that taking care of myself was a burden, not fun at all. It was heavy. When I let go of that, when I thought of the other instead of myself, I was light as a feather. With me gone, there was no one protect. It was actually a real joy getting rid of me, getting rid of self consciousness, of pride, of jealousy. I saw how pathetic that little me was. Just a problem that I was carrying around. You should try it. You might like it. Come with me, my friend, so we can laugh and play again.